We have apologies for absence from Councillor H. Smith and Councillor Boyd Moody.
Thank you very much. Item 2, declarations of interest. To receive disclosures of unregistered or other interests from councillors on matters to be considered at the meeting. The disclosure shall include the nature of the interest. If a member becomes aware during the course of a meeting of an interest that has not been disclosed under this item, they must immediately disclose it. Under the Code of Conduct, councillors with a registerable interest must leave the room for the duration of consideration of the item to which the interest relates. Those with a other interest must apply the test set out in the Code of Conduct as to whether or not there are circumstances that might enable them to remain. Thank you. Item 3, minutes of the council meeting. To confirm the minutes of the annual meeting of Tavistock Town Council, which was held on Monday the 20th of May, which have been circulated. First of all, is it your agreement that this is a true record of the meeting that was held? Thank you. Seconded. Thank you. Those in favour that it was a true record, please show.
It's carried.
Thank you. That's carried. And 28th, didn't I? 26th. Right, thank you very much. Were there any matters arising from those meetings? Councillor Ellis.
Mayor, councillors, one of the things I found interesting with the minutes of the last meeting was the attendance records. So I'm wondering if it would be possible to get the attendance records made available to councillors for the pre-annual meeting. That way, if we do go to a vote like we did this year, we've got the attendance of everyone there and we can see who's more committed and vote more ably on who we think should be on the committees. And just as a second note, if people are absent, could we have it sort of noted if it is for medical or welfare? That way we know they've got a valid excuse for not being there. Right, thank you for that comment. Town Clerk, did you wish to comment on that?
I think I'll only say from an administrative point of view, there's no issue if members are happy for us to put those results to the pre-annual meeting. The only thing I would say is we would tend not to record the reason for an absence in minutes, simply because there might be circumstances where that would be either inappropriate or insensitive. So if it's for medical reasons, if it's because someone's on holiday, clearly those are circumstances where you might not wish to actually say that someone's going to be on holiday for the next 2 weeks and the next lot of meetings, because if there's someone out there watching this broadcast, you don't necessarily want to broad that to the wider community. So members can report that, but I'd be hesitant about actually reporting the reasons in the minutes for those reasons. But if colleagues are happy to, we can circulate attendance records with the pre-annual.
No? Okay, I move on to item 4, public representations and questions. To receive any representations or previously submitted questions from members of the public in attendance. There's nobody in attendance, I don't think, but we have had a question which the Town Clerk will read.
Thank you. We've had a question from Mr. M. Voller of Cortlands Close, Tavistock, and he has asked the question: would the Council consider passing a resolution to support the journey to plastic-free community status for Tavistock, committing to plastic-free alternatives and plastic-free initiatives within the town? This accreditation would benefit the people of our town and the greater community and link into a further national campaign by Surfers Against Sewage.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. I will reply. Initiatives which seek to support ecologically sound and sustainable practices for the benefit of flora, fauna and people are to be welcomed. This is an area where work has already been undertaken by the Council around compacting and recycling, and we acknowledge there is more to do. In addition, a partner body, Transition Tavistock, is active in this area, and we will arrange for the information you have provided to be given to them. You may also wish to liaise with those authorities with specific responsibilities for waste collection and waste disposal. That's West Devon Borough Council and Devon County Council. Looking forward, this council may also wish to look holistically at a range of environmental matters as part of its community planning process, including issues such as climate change, the use of plastics, loss of biodiversity, the sustainable use of natural resources and pollution. This is something, along with other environmental issues, that will be looked at by the Budget and Policy Committee. Now move on to item 5. Oh, sorry, Councillor.
Can I just say, Madam Mayor, that actually this proves by the full response that you've given that actually if somebody sends in a question, a full response can be given at the meeting. And that has just proved that we can actually do that. So that's to be welcomed.
Thank you. Right, we'll move on now to item 5, which is General Finance, Schedule of Payments, to consider and endorse the monthly accounts as at the 31st of March, schedules of all payments enclosed. Members had the opportunity to submit any detailed questions concerning any payments or other financial matters, and I think you had one.
I had a number from one member, yourself, Madam Mayor, thank you very much. I hope that we've answered the ones we've been able to answer so far satisfactorily. I think there are probably a couple outstanding, but we'll get back to you as soon as we're able to on those. Thank you.
Sorry.
Can I just follow that by saying that as a new member I found the schedule of payments, whilst very detailed and very full, extremely confusing, and I went into a lot of the policy and budget papers to check where those items had come from. And I'd like to suggest and to propose actually that we can have a workshop on the budget and the principles of the financial information that are presented to Council. Otherwise, I fear I can't really justifiably endorse the paperwork.
Okay.
We are anticipating, I'm previewing something which is later on the agenda, that we will be having some sessions with members of an informal nature which are identifying areas which members would like to look at, and I think that would be if that goes through, that would be exactly the area that we would be looking at, certainly in terms of what we have here, because of the nature of the way in which this part of the sector operates. In very simple terms, what you have is a schedule of all payments made. That becomes slightly more complicated, of course, when it's backs payments that are associated with that, but there's no reason why, if colleagues, when we come to those informal sessions, feel that's something they'd like to explore, we can certainly do.
Thank you very much. Right, so the schedule of payments, so are people happy that those payments are endorsed? Thank you. That's carried. Budget monitoring report, to consider and endorse the phased budget monitoring report as at the 31st of March. I was very pleased to see that the income came in at 99.9% of the proposed budget. That's very clever. Well done, Mr. Town Clerk.
Fortuitous, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. If people do have questions about the schedule of payments and budget monitoring report, please send them in. I've most months or most meetings I send in something, and you do get a very detailed report for it. Yes.
I'm afraid I had rather too many, and I didn't come up with all of them until yesterday, which was bank holiday, obviously. Can I just say that budget monitoring and schedule of payments, the previous answer, that would be great.
Sounds like a good plan. I think we'll put that on the list. Thank you. Development Management and Licensing Committee to receive and consider the minutes of the meeting of the Development Management and Licensing Committee held on the 30th of April. Deputy Mayor to present, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor. I rise to present the meeting minutes of the 30th of April. Basically, I'm going to go through them as wrote. Minute 341, apologies for absence. 342, confirmation of minutes. 343, declarations of interest. 344, Dartmoor National Park Authority. The only thing for information there is that there is a new Dartmoor walking route that's been worked out around the whole of Dartmoor, which hopefully people enjoy and also hopefully bring more tourism into the area. That should be ready in about a year's time. 345, town planning issues. 346, general correspondence. 347, urgent business brought forward by the chairman. 348, planning decisions and applications. A is the planning decisions by the West Devon Borough Council, and B, the new planning applications to the West Devon Borough Council, which the views of the committee are that hopefully the Town Council will recommend the views that the Town Council will pass these on to the local planning authority.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. So can we have you've proposed, and can I have a seconder for those, please? Right, those in favour, please show.
Carried.
Carried, thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I rise to present the minutes of the Development, Management and Licensing Committee held on Tuesday the 21st of May. 13, election of chairman. 14, election of vice chairman. 15, apologies for absence. 16, confirmation of minutes. 17, declarations of interest. 18, Dartmoor National Park Authority. Dartmoor Local Plan, we received a communication explaining arrangements for commenting on the DNPA plan and noted them. 19, town planning issues. A, street naming. We have been requested to suggest names for the Bovis Homes development off Cannington Road, which we understand is to be known as the Tors. A list of Tors visible from that site was put forward, and the recommendation is that the following names be submitted for consideration: White Tor, Staple Tor, Great Miz Tor, King's Tor, Ingra Tor, Foggin Tor, Sharpie Tor, Leiden Tor, Brundlestone Tor, Yellowmead Tor and Swell Tor. It was further recommended that a suggestion made by Bovis of using a girl's name to one of the roads was inappropriate in the circumstances and should not be acceded to. It was suggested that a named memorial bench or meadow would be more appropriate. 19B, annual waiting restriction review consultation on changes to waiting times at the following sites: Glanville Road, to introduce no waiting at any time on the inside of the bend to prevent obstructive parking. Parkwood Road, introduce no waiting at any time to prevent obstructive parking at the entrance to Vigo Mews. Old Exeter Road, introduce no waiting at any time to allow egress across dropped crossings, revoking a section of limited waiting parking bay in the process. The committee had a detailed discussion about these items, as history has shown us that parking raises strong emotions, and we wanted to be sure that we were putting forward the best opinion that we were able to. It was recommended that the above traffic orders, as submitted, be accepted. It was noted that Councillor Squire did not vote on the traffic orders as listed above in view of a personal interest. C, waiting and loading restriction amendments order for Drake Villas, Tavistock. A great deal of discussion took place here. Essentially, the proposal is to move an area of limited parking from one side of the road to the other as part of the development taking place at the Churchill site, and the proposed alterations to the road going from Ford Street roundabout to Drake's statue roundabout. It was recommended that the above traffic order be opposed by Tavistock Council, and essentially the grounds for that was that it would create significant problems for vehicles, particularly heavy vehicles, heading north along that route.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. Should we take those recommendations as in 19? You've proposed them. Can we have a seconder for those recommendations, please? Thank you. Those in favour, please show. Thank you. That's carried.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 20, general correspondence. 21, urgent business brought forward at the discretion of the Chairman. 22, planning decisions and applications. A, planning decisions by West Devon Borough Council. B, new planning applications to West Devon Borough Council. I beg to move.
There's a recommendation there.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Yes, recommended that the views of the Town Council as listed in Appendix B be passed to the local planning authority for consideration.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Parker, please.
Can I draw attention to...
Could you stand, please?
Oh, I'm so sorry, yes, of course. I hope people can still hear me above the microphone. Can I draw attention, Madam Mayor, to Appendix B, the 1, 2, 3, 4th item, which is Grammarby Farm, and suggest that the objection should have read not appropriate for the setting of the conservation area. It makes a difference to the planning officer's understanding of what we understood. Thank you.
Right, we now move on to item 7, other matters requiring a decision. To consider the following matters requiring a decision. A, beat the retreat. There are copies of 2 letters in your paper, one from a member of the group that's organising this and the other from the branch of the Tavistock branch of the Royal British Legion. I don't know what members will think about it, but I would be minded to adopt this as it seems to be a fairly significant event which could be staged in Tavistock. Minded to adopt it as a mayoral event which, if that was to happen, then the use of the town hall would be given for this event. So Mrs Ewing, please.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any members have any other views on it? Can we show that? Councillor Mrs Parker.
Can I just ask what the cost to the Town Council is of putting up the Town Hall as a free venue?
Subject to any views from my colleague, the General Manager, there are basically 2 costs, one of which is the opportunity cost of not being able to have a booking for somebody else within that time slot. The other would be dependent upon the level of staffing resource that was required to actually support it. I would anticipate that for something like this, what we would be saying would be that we would expect that the bookie in the circumstances would make a physical contribution to set out and breakdown of the event, and certainly if they wanted to use the kitchen, then we would expect them to actually put the kitchen back into the condition it was when they came in. But it would depend how many staff we needed to have, and I don't know enough about the actual event itself in terms of what the staffing requirement would be.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs Crawford, then Councillor Ward.
Just to point out that the first letter does suggest that they would want the bar open for revenue, so there would be a cost implication there.
And an income one, yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My reading of this is that this is a prestigious and infrequently held event that would bring people into the town and benefit the town. I also feel we have a very long-lasting and strong relationship with the Royal British Legion in this town, and I'm confident the advantages would greatly outweigh any minor financial disadvantages.
Councillor Venning.
Being ex-military and plus also involved with leading retreats, etc. I used to be in the band in the army, and this would be a good reception for after the event, but we must take into consideration that we're going to have to close a big area to order to retreat. It isn't a question of just standing there and doing nothing. We normally have a military display, etc. So it would be very interesting to find out what the agenda is for the whole day, as opposed to just having a presentation, a meal afterwards.
Thank you. The letter does ask, it says the event would commence at 6:30 in the evening on Bedford Square, so I don't see that there would need to be a road closure for that.
Well, as I said, I mean, I know for a fact that it takes up a lot of room. There will be a lot of spectators around, so you may have to consider closing the road. Just from my experience of being in the military.
Town Clerk, please.
I think just to add to that, we are providing the space within the town hall. It's a matter for the event organisers to put in place any necessary safety or other arrangements in association with the event, or indeed any road closures should they be required.
Yeah, well, I was trying to point out it will come back to the council about the other parts of it as well as the meal, the prison. No, it won't come back.
Because we're not the event organiser, they would be responsible for that. Effectively, if this is as suggested, we are providing the space in the town hall without charge, and the staff to support that space. We are not providing or supporting the event, not because we don't support it, but because that is subject to a separate event organiser. They will organise the event. They will be responsible for meeting all the both statutory and best practice requirements in relation to events of that type, and they are best placed to do so, of course.
Councillor Fay.
Yes, it's just for my own curiosity. We clearly have a logo of the British Legion, but why is the person requesting this blanked out and the signatures blanked out?
Sorry, I didn't catch any of that. Sorry.
Well, I just wondered why it was all being blanked out.
Mr. Town Clerk, please. Probably something to do.
This is one of the functions of the General Data Protection Regulation, and as a result of that, what you will increasingly find in your documentation is that where individuals are identifiable, then their names will be redacted, or indeed other information which could identify them on a personal basis.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a proposal on the table which has been seconded. Those people in favour, please show. Thank you, that's carried. Now, which is the informal mechanism for pre-policy development, member engagement and scoping. It's a report enclosed at 7B, which I hope everybody has had a chance to read and inwardly digest. I'll open it up for debate, please. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank you to the Town Clerk. Can I say that it's a really clear advice and with really well set out options. The need for this report arose from Councillor Hutton's question about how new issues can be introduced and raised openly and in a kind of free-form way. I take to heart the Town Clerk's advice on the 4 principles. They are well made, and they set out, I think, the way in which local authorities generally should behave. And particularly welcome his exploration of the options. This seems to me a classic case of the answer was there in front of us all the time. The question was asked, and the answer is that there is a mechanism already in place for ad hoc free-form meetings that can do exactly what Councillor Hutton was saying. It seems to me, Madam Mayor, that option 2, i.e. maintaining our current practice, is the clear and obvious way forward, and at the appropriate time I'd be pleased to move option 2, continuing current practice, but in the light of the Town Clerk's 4 guiding principles. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Parker. Anybody else wish to speak?
So, just clarify what's option 2.
Option 2 is in the recommendations.
It's in 5 under the conclusions. There are 3 options there, and Councillor Parker has suggested we adopt option 2. Mayor?
I also think it's a very good document, and I'm very happy to second that.
Thank you. Councillor Squire.
Can I ask advice of those that produce the document? What is the crucial difference between option 2 and option 3?
Please.
Option 2 effectively is what we have done in the past, which is having these meetings on an as and when required basis. Option 3 is providing for a more scheduled or programmed approach in terms of the slots for the meetings, and then you would either have the meetings or not according to the business that you had arising, but you'd be planning 12 months in advance when those meetings would occur if they did occur.
Thank you. Man, please.
The only question I had was around process with the current procedure for ad hoc meetings. Who is the person that makes the decision when those ad hoc meetings are needed, and who gets to create an ad hoc meeting request?
Under the current arrangements, there are, for most of these, it would usually come either from consideration of council or a recommendation coming from the Budget and Policy Committee, because most of these areas would be matters which fall within the policy framework or relate to it in some way. There are a small number of occasions where, if you look at the item where I've referred to as being, bear with me, Item 4.3c, presentations and questions, where they might be officer-led. We've tended to do that in the past where there are either some complex project or complex legal issues where it's necessary to have effectively either an expert witness in or the equivalent to be able to outline a situation, and then to afford members the opportunity to discuss issues that arise in and around that. I mean, I think in the context of what's been proposed, what I would anticipate we would do is we would next go to the Budget and Policy Committee saying, this is what we need to look at. I've had a conversation with both the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor earlier today, where we have talked about the possibility that a first session for all councillors could be one which is very much about looking in the round at what all the issues are and affording councillors an opportunity, whether it's through 3 post-its each or whatever it happens to be able to rank and identify the things that are important to them, from which we could then start to put together a topic-based programme for the sorts of things which we might look at going forwards.
Thank you very much. Councillor Squire.
That these meetings are scheduled, i.e. booked and planned as a date in a calendar, so that the word ad hoc becomes less relied upon and more scheduled. That would be welcome.
Right, thank you. That seems to be an amendment to the proposal. Do we have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Crawford. So we'll take the amendment first. So the amendment is that, please, Mr.
Yeah, just to be clear,
Councillor Parker.
Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The reason that I put forward option 2 is, first of all, that it is a tried and tested way forward and the procedures already in place. The second thing is that my experience is that once you start putting meetings in the schedule, then business starts getting created to fill the slot created by the meetings, and that's not always the most effective and efficient use of time. If I may make a suggestion, that the first of these ad hoc meetings that the town clerk's just referred to will itself tease out a schedule of the things that are important, the things that are less important to members. And it may be that some require full meetings of the group. It may be that others require nothing more than task and finish groups to be appointed. My strong feeling is still that we stick with the current arrangement, and I would be voting against the amendment.
Councillor Crawford.
Just to say, given my own experience, if you schedule something in, it's far easier to cancel than trying to schedule in something along the way. That's my...
Thank you. Right, so we've got an amendment which we will take first. The amendment, please, Town Clerk.
So this is for the amendment, which effectively, if you look on page 4 of your report, is paragraph Roman 3. So that would be to have scheduled meetings or scheduled dates within each committee cycle for the provision of informal events for members planned in accordance with your calendar of meetings a year in advance.
We'll take a vote now. Those in favour of the amendment, please show.
2.
Those against, please show.
That's 4. That falls.
Any abstentions? No. So now we take the first proposal.
Yes, we take the original motion, which is item Roman 2, which is to continue with the past practice of arranging informal sessions on an ad hoc basis according to need.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Those in favour, please show.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Those against, please show.
1.
Thank you. One, General Manager's report, which is enclosed. Councillor Williamson, please.
Thank you, Matt. I noted there were a couple of incidents of vandalism to council property in the Meadows, I recall, and somewhere else. And I did forewarn the General Manager that I'd ask a question and invite him to make a comment about whether we have a problem in that respect.
Please.
I would say with regards to vandalism, there probably isn't a pattern. It's very difficult to actually judge when these kind of issues happen. The last issue has been wanton vandalism to play park equipment in the region of about £1,000, damaging 2 pieces of equipment down in the Meadows. There are times in the past, going back probably about a year and a half ago, certain councillors might recall a discussion around the picnic table down in the Meadows, which was cut in half by a chainsaw, where someone decided to bring it down. I don't think it's a regular concern and a regular issue. I think more of the more challenges we get are around broken glass, that kind of thing in our play pots and other areas, as opposed to wanton vandalism on our equipment.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for the General Manager on his report? We'll now move on to the Works Department report. Any questions on this? Councillor Crawford, please.
It's not a question. I'd just like to commend the General Manager and the staff for the rewilding campaign that I've been involved in, and say thank you very much in terms of the support that we've had through the group. Thank you. The Blue campaign that's also known now.
Town Hall and Butchers Hall report. Any comments, questions? No, thank you, that's noted. Oh, sorry, Councillor Williamson. Beg your pardon, Councillor Williamson.
I picked up along the way that within the Town Hall we don't take credit or debit cards as a means of payment, and increasingly in a cash reducing society, it seemed to me that we weren't perhaps, as a council, keeping up with the times. Now I realise it's an operational issue and there may be good reason for not taking card payments, but I just wondered if the General Manager or whoever would like to comment on the notion of whether we should or should not take card payments.
Thank you. General Manager, please.
I'd be delighted to comment. Yes, we are looking into card payments within the Town Hall and Butchers Hall, and we are taking a longer term vision around a cashless approach within the pannier market. So both those aspects are being currently investigated, and we'll bring a report back to Council.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Move on to item 9, which is finance and other matters. To receive for information the following: the report of the Assistant to the Town Clerk, which is enclosed. I'd like to say here the dates have been set for the civic events for the next civic year, so please get those in your diary. Hopefully people will be able to attend them all. I think the grants presentation evening was very successful, so thank you for organising that. Any questions? Noted, thank you very much. Item D, Devon County Council reports, which we have on the table this evening. Thank you. I think there's a lot of useful information in that report.
Sorry, could I ask a question?
Councillor Crawford?
Yeah, I noticed in here there's a bit about Greenland's escape. Sorry, not escape. I did notice on social media, just before the election, that there were concerns about play equipment on Greenland's estate. And I just wondered if there was any movement on that at all. Because I know that somebody had directed somebody that it really wasn't too far to walk with young children down to the meadows. I think it's a bit of a stretch, actually, with young children. So I just wondered if there was any further development on that, if you know that.
Thank you. If I can, there's a meeting or an open afternoon.
Sorry?
There's an open afternoon tomorrow afternoon on Greenlands where they're trying to encourage people to come along to find out what's going on there. So that's. I think there was a cream tea involved. If I wasn't working, I'd be there.
Thank you.
Comment, please.
Oh, come on, Kathy. Stand by me.
Thank you. Crumbs. Thank you. And before I say anything else, answer the question, may I just congratulate you all and hope that you all have a good 4 years and that you have good mayoral year as well, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, Greenlands. Yeah, this has been on the cards for quite a while, and it was because the play park had it was removed because it was vandalised several years ago now, and I thought that was grossly unfair that young kids were being penalised for something that had been done historically. And so I contacted the Live West and to see if we could do something, plus the fact when I've been talking to mums and dads that they wanted something doing. So we're looking at that, and we're also looking at ways of just making Greenlands. I want to focus on Greenlands first, and then hopefully take it further to all the other estates in Tavistock.
Thank you for that.
Madam Mayor, I forgot to add in my report, if I may, if you'll indulge me, and also I've had instruction to try and get the report a week earlier, so I will do that, so I apologise for that. That Devon County Council has allocated £250,000 for climate change discussions with multi-agencies, so that would be all the district councils and I believe the police and schools and everything. So it's good. That's just, we'll keep a watchful eye on that. And also that the children's budget was £9.5 million overspent. This just shows how expensive it is to provide children's services. We have used money from reserves to bridge that gap, and we continue to lobby central government for fairer funding.
Thank you for that. Councillor Ward and Councillor Clark and Councillor Ewing.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. May I, through you, thank Councillor Sellis for producing a comprehensive report, and I'm delighted to hear that you're hopeful about distributing it a bit earlier. It does contain hyperlinks, and it really would be very, very helpful if this could be distributed to councillors electronically so that we could make use of those hyperlinks.
Yeah, they're really useful because if you have a look, for example, on what Devon County Council has done since 2009, reducing its carbon emissions and methane with landfill and stuff like that, you know, that we've been. It is interesting.
My point is, Madam Mayor, that we're unable to access the hyperlinks through a paper copy. We have to have an electronic copy.
Oh, sorry, I thought that it was sent on email to all councillors.
It hasn't been.
No, but if we have it a bit earlier, then we'll be able to organise that.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Thank you.
And I thought historically it had been.
No. Councillor Parker, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In fact, I realise now that the answer to my question might be in the hyperlink. The first section of this report covers a whole series of works. I wonder where we might be able to access the timetables for those works.
Oh, is that for the traffic regulation orders?
It's for the works listed on the highways planned works.
No, I do send councillors, as you know, the traffic regulation orders. I do send them to you by email.
Yeah.
So I asked the local highways officer to just give me an update of what's relevant now. See, in the 20th of June, that Market Road's going to be closed at night, well, between 1800 to midnight, because the paviors are going to be removed, which it's going to be tarmacked.
Thank you. Councillor Mrs Ewing.
May I just ask through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Mrs Sellis. You said 250,000 has been allocated for discussions. That's an awful lot of talking money.
Well, I think you've got to start somewhere, Councillor Ewing, it is a multi-agency on how we can work together to reduce our carbon footprint. So I think the fact that Devon County Council has allocated £250,000 is not insignificant. And yes, indeed, it is a lot of money, but it also emphasises how we are trying to protect our environment for future generations. And that if you can put that funding towards something, it is useful, I suggest.
Thank you. Next, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. 2 questions, please. What time is the meeting at Greenlands tomorrow?
1 o'clock. I think it's 1 till 4.
Right.
And it's a free cream tea. Gluten.
I need to be very careful. After the meeting we had today, we now need to be very careful about
gluten, catering for gluten-free as well, I believe.
And the second thing, actually, is following Councillor Watt. Is it easy for you to resend this to us, this letter? That we could, yes, you can do that.
I've sent it to...
Can I just say, obviously I didn't receive it in time. I was afraid councillors wouldn't have had time to see the email today, which is why...
But it would be quite easy for you to send
the bank holiday through us as well.
Thank you.
Okay, right, thank you very much. Councillor Mann.
Can I just ask Councillor Sellis that 250,000 climate change stuff, if we have a neighbourhood plan involving sustainability in town, is that the type of funding that might become available to town councils as well?
I don't know, but I can find out if you want to email me. Okay, but it is multi-agency, so I don't know.
Councillor Crawford, coming back to Greenlands. Can you tell us where it is? Oh, it's here. Oh, is it?
Sorry, I didn't understand that.
Where is it? Where's your team?
Where in Greenlands is this meeting tomorrow,
Oh,
please?
it's in the play area on Plym Crescent.
Thank you.
You know, the field by the garages.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, thank you. I think that's all the questions. Thank you very much, Councillor Mrs Sellis. Right, we move on now to item C, which is the West Devon Borough Council report. I'm delighted to welcome Councillor Andy Coulson here this evening, so thank you very much for coming, and thank you for your report, which was emailed. Well, we certainly had it with our papers, so that was in good time, so thank you. I don't know if anybody's got any questions for Councillor Coulson, Councillor Parker, Councillor Crawford.
A question for Councillor Coulson to take back to his colleagues and officers, if I may, Madam Mayor, which is, could we have a timetable for the production and publication of the development plan document on settlement boundaries? A number of members here have been chasing for a publication date for that for a while. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford.
Thank you. I'd just like to commend Councillor Coulson on his report and also on the environmental issues and getting that through, which is fantastic. And I have made councillors aware that I'm hoping to do that for the Town Council at the next meeting. So, yes, yeah, hopefully we'll be working together on that.
Right, thank you very much. Any other further questions or comments to Councillor Coulson? Councillor Mrs. Parker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Coulson, you talk about environmental concerns and health and well-being, and it's something actually I noticed in a previous Town Council report. Does the Borough Council have a solution to the impending ban on the use of weed killer?
Hi there, Maris. No, in summary, not right now, no. We've only just declared a climate and biodiversity crisis, and the next stage is we're going to establish an environmental working group. That environmental working group has got 3 months or thereabouts to come round with a report to the full council. As you can imagine, this is a huge area, the scope of which is probably very rarely been looked at. In terms of cognitive capacity bandwidth, is probably as big as the joint local plan, and now that's out of the way, it probably will be one of those subjects that we'll all be quite well involved in. So at this stage, no, we don't have an answer right now, or I don't have one for you at this moment, but we'll certainly be looking at that as part of it.
Could I just ask that when you do come up with an answer, you share it?
Absolutely, it will be broadcast.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions to Councillor Coulson? No. Can I thank you very much for providing the report? Yeah, and for attending this evening. Councillor Williamson has a question.
I don't want to go against the popular flow, but there is plenty of literature out there that suggests our carbon emissions in Britain are now below the levels that they were in the 19th century. And I commend those that have an interest in the subject to read The Economist and an article which I'm happy to furnish them so that they can seek it out. I think zero carbon or reduced carbon is becoming problematic. There are other areas of concern, plastics and so forth, that we really should be focusing on. We've already done the dash to gas and so forth, which has reduced our emissions. We have problems in other areas of carbon, and I think just point you in that direction.
Thank you. I'd be interested in seeing that article from The Economist. I haven't read it since I was in the sixth form, so probably about time I started again. Any further comments or questions? Right, thanks very much, Andy. Thank you. D, which is the police report. I don't think we have a police report. Item E, Whitchurch Down Consultative Group, the notes of the meeting which were heard on the 23rd of April, which have been circulated. Anybody have any questions or comments to make? Thank you. We note those then. Thank you very much. Item F, project update, to receive any oral update in connection with the Townscape Heritage Initiative. Town Clerk, is there any?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have anything specifically in relation to that one. When we come to the second item, the Guildhall Gateway Centre project, I think the General Manager will just outline where we're at in relation to the tender process. Both happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thank you. Item 2 then, little 2, Guildhall Gateway Centre project, General Manager.
Just to clarify that we're currently out to tender for the Guildhall Gateway project. If you want to view the tenders, they're on our website under tenders and contracts. The tender return date is the 17th of June. We intend to open up the tenders on that day and then do the due diligence, which will probably take about, realistically, 10 days. Then we'll bring the results back to Council.
Thank you, General Manager. Any questions? To receive any update from or questions to council representatives serving on other bodies in connection with the work of those bodies. Any questions, Councillor Ward?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whilst not an official council representative, I am the chairman of the Tavistock Twinning Association. The first point I'd like to make is to thank council for hosting a civic reception for our Pontivy visitors today, and to thank you, Madam Mayor, for attending that. The number of members who are actively engaged in twinning with our twin towns is getting smaller. It's a small group of ageing individuals. Believe it or not, I'm one of the younger ones. And I fear for its future. And I think we're not very far away from twinning being in name only, with very little activity going on. And I do wonder whether at some point Council might consider if there are any ways we can promote the twinning activities between ourselves, Cella and Pontivy.
Thank you, Councillor Ward. I think it's something that's quite important. You were telling me that they have a very active twinning association in Launceston, as you call it.
Is it not Launceston, Madam Mayor?
It can be Launceston or it can be Launceston.
I was told that it was Launceston, but I'm quite prepared to call it Launceston if it pleases you. Yes, I had the good chance to speak to the chairman of the Launceston Twinning Association, and I understand that they have some 200 members, which absolutely bowled me over. And when their French visitors come, they're twinned with Plestin, Les Grèves in Brittany. The French arrive in the biggest double-decker bus you've ever seen, which says something about the activities going on.
Thank you for that information. I'd just like to update members on Kingdom House. Our manager, Karen Woodward, is retiring. We have appointed a new manager who is Nicola Buttersill, who formerly worked at the Borough Council. I think she starts in post probably next week or the week after. So interesting and exciting times there. Councillor Mann.
It's not officially as a councillor that I'm on the EcoFest committee, but I did want to report that we got the funding that we were looking for so that we could make sure that that's going to be a really great event in the Meadows on July 20th, which is going to be supporting the Lions Carnival Day as well. And obviously anybody who has a sustainability interest and wants to come my way and talk to me about what we could do and work together on towards things like that. And I'd like to request, actually, that perhaps, I think we've already requested that the Mayor attend and open the event, but perhaps we could also highlight some of the great things that the Town Council is doing as part of that.
Thank you very much. Yes, I've had an invitation and well, there should be a reply going back to say that I will attend that, so thank you. To item 2, which is feedback from members following their attendance at any training sessions. We've just had a lengthy training session prior to this meeting. I'm sure nobody's got any feedback from that, but I think everybody was there. It was a very good training session, and thank you for organising that. I think it covered things well. Parker.
May I just make a comment, Madam Mayor? I've said to a couple of colleagues, I think that must have been the 7th or 8th session on standards that I've attended, and I learned something new tonight. So please, can you send that thanks back? Thank you.
Thank you for that positive comment. That's excellent. Thank you. Item 10, to receive such communications or reports as may be submitted by the Town Mayor. A couple of things. A prompt to members that you have to return your election expense forms, even if they were a nil return. They need to be in by the 31st of May. If you don't send them back, I'm sure you've all done them, and I'm wasting my time talking. If you don't send them back, I think you lose the ability to be a councillor, so please get your forms back. And also, you need to complete your registration of interest forms. If you haven't done those, please do them. I gave mine to the assistant to the town clerk, who took a copy of them and then sent them up to the borough for me. So please remember to get those things done. Can I also mention here, that I attended the Garden Festival. I think it was incredibly well organised. I know the staff worked very, very hard, and I've already written to the town clerk to thank him and to pass on my thanks for the way it was organised, and very much a can-do attitude. I spent quite a bit of time in the food and drink hall, in the butcher's hall, and the traders there were, I wasn't asking them, but they were willingly telling me how helpful staff had been, which was really nice to hear, so thank you for that. Urgent matters brought forward at the discretion of the Town Mayor. I have none, Mr Town Clerk. None. Exclusion of press and public. Item 12. Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960.